Oh, hi, there you are. I'm glad you stopped by. I was just thinking about that wonderful story you were telling me. So, as I recall, you were working at that CPA firm, right? And you had a client of yours, and you were telling me that this client had a very successful travel agency. His name was Charles. He had spent a lifetime building up his travel agency, very well regarded, made a nice amount of money. And what he did, he had this travel agency that would travel. He would book travel to destinations, trips to South America, Europe, Australia, etc. And well, what happened? Apparently, Charles had a heart attack, very serious, and everything went okay. I mean, he survived the heart attack, but he was convalescing at home. Doctors say he needed to convalesce, and his son Donald came into the business. Now he's kind of a blustery kind of guy, kind of full of himself too. This Donald, he's actually run 3 businesses into the ground. He's not a very good businessman, but he came in and elbowed his way in and said, "I'm the son of the president. I'm taking over." Moves into the president's office, and well, that didn't go very well. In a conversation with the CFO, he fires the CFO. Great. Then he starts talking to the controller. He doesn't like the controller either. Boom, controller, she's out too. Well, people were really kind of intimidated by him. He finally talks to the accounting manager, and he says, "Listen, I want you to give me a profitability by product line, because I think you guys don't know how to run a company around here." Real arrogant guy. Anyway, so he gets this operating statement prepared by the accounting manager, and it's right here. So as you can see here, we have sales across the top. He does 2.275 million in sales. You got Europe, the Middle East, Australia, South America, Japan, and North Africa. And then a cost of those sales, which is 1,225,250, and for each line of those business where they do their traveling there. And then a gross profit on sales, which we're also going to call our contribution to corporate overhead. So you can see they're all profitable there. They all make a gross profit. Now underneath that, we have our fixed expenses. So with their fixed expenses, you have your corporate insurance. Well, that's not going to change from year to year. You had to have those corporate expenses. Rent and occupancy costs, advertising and promotion of the travel agency, depreciation on fixed assets, and there's others. And this was gave them, and the total corporate expenses were $850,000. Now, of course, they were simply distributed over the product lines. And the manner that the accounting manager chose was by sales. He just distributed as a percentage of sales. Any methodology is really fine. It was just a matter of distributing the fixed costs. So you have a profit of $195,750, and that was 8.8% of sales. So Donald takes a look at this, and what's he say? He says, "You guys are idiots. You're losing money on that South American line. I want you to close that South American line." Because if you look at it here, it looks like they lost $22,088. Now, the controller didn't want to argue with the guy because they've already fired 2 people. So he keeps his mouth shut. And the next thing you know, you, as the accountant, you get a phone call. Well, actually, the next step that happened was they cut the division line. A bunch of employees are fired from that South America, line. And some of the employees call up the president saying, "What's going on?" Well, the wife of the president says, "I'm sorry, he can't take calls. He's convalescing. The doctor says he shouldn't get involved in work. All that stress isn't good for his heart." So she calls you as the CPA and says, "I don't know, these people are calling, see if you can figure out what's going on." And you were telling me that's how you got involved. So fine. So you called up the company, you reached out to the accounting manager, you got that operating statement, and you saw what was going on there. It was the allocation of the fixed costs. Oh my gosh. So what you did was you recreated a new income statement as if that line of business was gone. So up here, you can see here where you have, the same totals, okay, and same $850,000 of fixed costs, but the South American line is gone. Well, now those corporate expenses have to be split over the remaining lines of business. So the net profit is dropped by $90,000. It's gone down to $109,750. I mean, it's just a matter of looking at the operating statement and understanding an allocation of fixed costs. The fixed costs don't go away. That's why they're fixed. But Donald didn't want to hear about that. He's not too bright. He just wants to look at the bottom line and make quick decisions. So I said, well, would you do that? So you were telling me, well, you had a big decision here, you know? So you could have went to Donald and explained to him what was wrong, but his experience is that he doesn't talk to people. He doesn't listen to, he thinks he's, you know, the smartest guy in the room and doesn't listen to good counsel. I said, well, can you take it back to the president? Well, you don't want to take it back to the president because he's convalescing at home. The next thing he needs is hearing about how his son is running the business into the ground and he's going to have less profit and is laying people off. No, that's not a good idea. So I said, well, what did you do? What'd you do? And so you were telling me, well, actually, you had an old chum who worked at the State Department. So you give a phone call to your old chum, old buddy at the State Department. And a week later, old Donald gets a phone call from the letterhead, the State Department of the United States. And it tells about how the country of Kit and St. Kitts and Nevis in the West Indies. Well, we haven't had an ambassador there for, well, forever. We don't have diplomatic relations with them. And the State Department would like to have diplomatic relations, and there's things in the work to have an ambassadorship. So perhaps about a year out, they would have an ambassadorship. But they think that Donald's a real sharp guy. He's got lots of business acumen. People speak very highly of him. And if he was to move down there and take residence as an American for a year, there's a strong possibility that when an ambassadorship comes up and they're approved, he'd be right there and able to move into the job. So Donald says, oh, that's great. That's for me. I'm going to do that. So he says he's going to move. It's supposed to be off the books. State Department says this is kind of on the QT, but we think this would be a great idea. You could be moving into that position when it opens up. So you engineered and said, okay, why don't we throw a party for Donald, a going away party, or to give him a gold watch. And once he was on the plane, boom, the controller and the CFO were reinstated. The operational vice president was moved to interim president until the president could resume his duties. The people were rehired and reinstated in that division, which was you know, actually very profitable. So I said, boy, that is pretty tricky and kind of sneaky. I really wouldn't get on your bad side, but I guess we're still going to call you one ace accountant. All right, let's give you a round of applause. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.